Good morning, children, and welcome in today's lesson. We have taken up one lesson from the supplementary readers, the Vistas. The name of the lesson is the third level. And in part 1, in my previous class, I have completed the first part. And before going to start part 2, I would like to have a short recapitulation of part 1. The story revolves around a 31-year-old man named Charlie who experienced something weird. One day after work, coming from the subway, he reached the third level of Grand Central Station, which does not actually exist. He reminisces the entire experience with his psychiatrist friend Sam. Charlie thought he experienced time travel and had reached somewhere in the 1890s, a time before the world saw two of its most deadliest wars, World War I and World War II. According to the psychiatrist, Charlie was unhappy, the fact of her wife did not like. Upon explaining further, it became clear that it is the burden of all the modern problems that is pushing him to experience that apparent perception of something not present. He tends to escape the reality. He starts explaining what exactly happened and begins with how he chose to take the subway to his apartment instead of the usual bus after a late night shift. He did this in order to save time. Now, in a nutshell, the fact that we have learned in part 1 is that Charlie was a 31-year-old man and he is the narrator of the story. He experienced something unusual while coming from, he was in a hurry to reach to his home after the work, and that's why instead of taking the bus, he wanted to, take a train, and that's why he entered in Grand Central Station. In Grand Central Railway Station, everyone knows that there is two level. Okay, one ground level on the another is the surface level. Okay, but on that particular day, something had happened with him. He experienced somehow while he was moving towards the second level or second level of the railway station. He was being directed to somewhere else, okay, which he named as the third level because that was something unknown to him. And after going there, he experiences as if the everything here on that level were of the world of 18th or 19th century America. Means after going there, he found that the people have the different style of dresses, their mustache and their haircut, everything is of 18th, 19th century. So everything he experienced that it was, a different world. Okay. And after coming home, he told everything to his wife, and both of them went to one psychiatrist, okay, to get an explanation that what is the reason of that. The psychiatrist was Sam, and Sam was one of his friend also, and he explained that actually the burden of the modern problem, okay, Charlie was undergoing, and he was not actually in a condition to adjust with those pressure, the stress of the modern life, and that's why he always used to have a kind of, he hallucinates. He fantasizes a world where there is a complete peace, and there is no hustle and bustle, there is no kind of rush. Okay, and where from he cropped up that world of 18th and 19th century because he heard the stories of 19th century America, where there was no that kind of pressure or stress was there. Everything was the result of the two wars. Okay, World War I and World War II. So that's why he fantasizes a world. Okay, that was a kind of escapist tendency on his part. He tends to escape the reality, and that's why he started experiencing that kind of hallucination. That was the explanation given by the psychiatrist, but he was not happy with that explanation. Okay, so that much we have seen in part 1. Now we are going to start with the part 2. Yes, now I turned, this is the text. Okay, I turned into Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and went down the steps to the first level where you take trains like the 20th century. Then I walked down another flight to the second level where the suburban trains leave from, ducked into an arched doorway heading for the subway and got lost. Now he is telling his experience that when he wanted to he went to Grand Central Station. First he went to the first level 21st century. The trains of the urban areas used to leave from there. He went to the second level where from he was supposed to take the train, and from there suburban trains used to go. All right. Now from there suddenly he got lost. All right, lost his way, and that's easy to do. I have been in and out of the Grand Central hundreds of times. He said that this is not something new because he used to go number of times. He went there number of times, Grand Central railway station, and he had never experienced like that. Okay, but I am always bumping into a new doorways and stairs and corridors. The Grand Central railway station always new to him because number of corridors, staircases and doorways are there. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of Roosevelt Hotel. Now what happened? He said that from there suddenly I got into a tunnel. It was a long tunnel, mile long, very long actually. And from there he reached to the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street, 3 blocks away. Now he said that he is telling his experiences, that how he had lost many a time on the Grand Central second level while going because number of staircases, number of doorways are there. Once he by mistake he took a road to the Roosevelt Hotel. Sometime he went to the 46th Street, 3 blocks away. Now free words are there. Suburban means that the residential or that not urban areas. Duct means what? Lower the head or body quickly. As you say, duct means what? To save yourself, you are dodging your body or your hand. This called. Now arched here means that carved. And bumping, knock, to run into something. The explanation here is that Charlie comes to the part of the incident where he entered the Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and took the stairs to the first level where one border trains like the 20th century. Then he went down another floor to reach the second level from where the suburban trains leave. From there he entered an arched doorway and got lost. It was nothing unusual for him because even if he had come to that station 100 times, there were occasions he bumped into new corridors and doorways. Once he entered the wrong lobby and reached Roosevelt Hotel, and another time in an office building which was 3 blocks away. Yes, now we'll continue with the text once again. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. Means there's a very busy railway station, very big also, right? So that's why number of corridors, staircases were there. So hundreds of time he was there, but still he didn't know how to, he sometimes lost his way there. There is probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about feeling its way under the city right now, on its way to Times Square and maybe another to Central Park, and maybe because for so many people through the years Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. Maybe that's how the tunnel I got into, but I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. Now the explanation of this part. He wondered that the Grand Central was expanding at a very fast rate, just like a tree, and with its roots. It is no big deal that there's a little bit mistake here. It is he should be omitted. It is no big deal that they even have a secret tunnel under the city to the Times Square or maybe the Central Park. He feels it might be because Grand Central is a place of exit for innumerable people. Innumerable people. He also managed to escape reality because of the same reason, although he never shared it with his psychiatrist. Means all these things he never have talked with the psychiatrist. Okay, now we'll go to the text again. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong, but I kept on walking. Now what happened? See, as I said, number of this the roads, the ways, the corridors, staircases are being spread like roots. Means number of these subways were there. Now the corridor he took, I began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong, but still he kept on walking. All I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps, because no one else there. He was alone there on that way. I didn't pass a soul. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead. He found that a kind of sound, roaring sound where the roaring sound means number of people were gathered in some place, like that sound. That means open space and people talking. The tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level at Grand Central Station. Now here from his hallucination started. He said that he reached a place which was completely unknown to him, and he told him that he named that level as the third level. Okay, for just a moment I thought I was back on the second level, but I saw the room was smaller. So these are the ambience of that third level, which was quite different from the actual second level. I saw the room was smaller. Okay, there were fewer ticket windows, right, and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. Wooden structure was there, look was old. Okay, it is not like the modern age railway station or the Grand Central Railway Station. And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protector. So that was the dress he was wearing, uniform. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Then I saw why they were open flame. Now, then after he also got open flame gas lights. If you do remember, a time was there, gas light used to, be used before the electric bulbs. Okay, so that time looking at that, he understood that actually he is in the okay. Now, as we have seen that he understood looking at all these things that actually he is there in the third level, which was a world of 19th century world, which was means looking the complete ambience of the railway station was different. Now we'll see the explanation. The unusual corridor he had entered into began angling left and slanting downward, which he felt odd about, but nevertheless he kept on walking, and there was no exception. There was no one except him, and the voice of his feet echoed. He finally heard the sound of people talking from a distance. Then he took a left and walked down the stairs, began only to reach the third level of the Grand Central. He thought he had somehow made his way back to the second level, but actually he noticed the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. The man in the booth was also different. The station was dim lit, for there were open flame gas lights only was there. So these are the things actually which made him understand that he was not in the second level, rather he was a third level or a different level, which more commensurate or in line with the 19th century railway station rather than the modern one. Okay, what are the things that made him to understand? When he noticed that the room was smaller and the ticket windows and the train gates were less. Okay, and the information booth in the center was a wooden structure and was old look. Okay, and the man in the booth also had a different kind of dress, and the gas lights were being used instead of the electric lights. So all these things made him understand that this is not the one or the second level which he was expecting to go. Yes, now I will proceed with the text once again. There were brass pitons. This is also very important. What are the different things he found there which were more likely of 18th or 19th century rather than of the modern age. There were brass pitons on the floor, and across the station a glint of light caught my eye. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. He wore a derby hat. See the dress pattern. A derby hat, a black four-button suit with his tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar moustache. All these things, this style, the dress pattern was of 19th century rather than of 20th century. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890. 1890 means 19th century, late 19th century. Something I never saw so many beards, means mustache and different kind of beards as those people used to keep in those days. Sideburns and fancy mustache in my life. A woman walked in through the train gate. He wore a dress with a leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of a high buttoned shoes. Okay, so all these things, if you see, these are of old pattern of style or the dress pattern. Okay, back of her out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive, a very small courier and Ibis locomotive with a funnel shaped step. Now those days locomotive engines or the train used to use long back, isn't it? So those were available in the late 19th century and not in the 20th century. So that's why he became confirmed that he was there in the different level. And then I knew spitons, a metal earthenware pot, typically having a funnel shaped pot used for spitting into. So that was also spiton, that earlier I said that brushed metal spitons were being used instead of the one which were being using in the 20th century. Now here some word meanings are: the vest, a garment wore out of on the upper part of the body, then snapped, break suddenly and completely. Locomotive, a powered railway vehicle used for pulling trains. Now you see the explanation. I already have explained that part, but still Charlie could see brass pitons everywhere when sudden glimpse of the light caught his eye, and he saw a man pulling the gold watch from the vest, and he is dressed in old-fashioned style. Suddenly he noticed that everyone was dressed like the 19th century. It was basically the time before deadly wars. So many beards and fancy mustache all around, something that the protagonist had never seen before. He even saw a very small courier and Ibis locomotive, which made him sure about which time he is in. Okay. Now the fact is that why he was experiencing all these things is the things. The thing is, whatever is happening before him, is it that they are real? If not, then what are those? Okay. As has been explained by the psychiatrist's friend Sam, that he was hallucinating. Okay, because he had an escapist tendency in his mind. He is not only he, rather on in the latter part of the story we will see that Sam also had that tendency. Okay, that is improved in the course of the story. Okay, that due to this modern life, due to this stressful life, the pressure, the worry, the tension, okay, the pain of this modern life, actually human being want to take an escape. And escape to where? An idyllic kind of a state, a peaceful place. Okay, as he heard, the 19th century world has been described by Charlie's grandfather. He actually has had a mind sketch about that within, right? And that's why he has had imagined so much so of that world that he started hallucinating those world, and that was a kind of daydream or day awakening kind of a dream. Okay, now the text again will continue. I will continue with the text. To make sure, I walked over to newsboy and glanced at the stack of the papers at his feet. Now he went to the newsboy to see that whether he was in the new world, other world of 19th century or not. It was the world. Now when he saw the newspaper, the world, and the world has been published for years. And the world newspaper used to be published in 19th century and not in the modern time. Okay, the lead story said something about the president Cleveland. Okay, I have found that from page since in the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. Okay, the date was June 11, 1984 on the newspaper. So he understood that the boy is selling the newspaper of June 11, 1894. It means that he is in that level of the 19th century world. Now, explanation to validate his suspicion, he went over to the newspaper boy who was selling the World, a newspaper which was discontinued years ago. There were some headlines about the then President Cleveland. The date on the front page was written June 11, 1894. And he was now sure that he was in the 19th century world. Okay. Yes. Now the next part we'll see of the text. I turned towards the ticket. Now he went to the ticket counter. Okay. Windows, knowing that here on the third level, a Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Loisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go in the year 1894. And I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg. Okay. Illinois. Now Galesburg, Illinois is the place where his grandfather used to stay, and grandfather had said so much so about the Galesburg, Illinois, that he had a kind of mental pen picture of that, and he had a kind of hallucination of that. He had a kind of fascination for that place, and that's why he wanted to go there. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town still, with big old frame house. So these were the signs. See, the peaceful, calm and quiet life. There is no tension over there and everything. So he imagined that with the big old frame houses, huge lawns and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and root the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out on the lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all over, in a peaceful world. This is what is the vital word here, a peaceful world. That's what he had described. What are the things? The trees with long branches, and people don't have that so much of busyness. They used to sit together, they smoke cigar, talk quietly. Women used to waving palm leaves fan and fireflies all around. So that was the kind of world which is he wanted to live in, and that's why he is giving all this kind of description. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off, means before 20 years before of that First World War. Okay. Now, and World War II over 40 years in the future. So I wanted 2 tickets for that. Yes. Now, when he asked for 2 tickets, what had happened, we'll see later on. The explanation of this, immediately went to the ticket counter to get the tickets for Galesburg, Illinois for him and his wife. It was a wonderful town with a lot of greenery. He was well aware that from there one could buy tickets that would take him anywhere in United States. It describes how things were in 1894 before the 2 World War took place. Now, evenings were twice as long as they are now, and men and women living in peace and serenity. Okay. Now, this little bit part we'll do and complete our class today. Okay. Now, the text, the clerk now, see what is the reaction of the clerk. The clerk figured the fare. Okay. He said that this much amount is there. He glanced at my fancy hat band, but he figured the fare, and I had enough for 2 coach tickets one way. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me. Okay, he counted and given that money, he was surprised. The clerk was surprised and looked at him. He nodded at the bill that ain't money, mister. Ain't money means that isn't money. Okay, that ain't money, mister. He said that if you are trying to skin me, you won't get very far. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him. Now what happened actually, when he had given that currency or the money, that currency was quite different from the currencies which used to be used in the 19th century, and that's why he said it is no more money. He said that that isn't money, this is not money. He said, and he said that if you are teasing me or doing fun with me, then you will be in trouble. Alright, of course the money was old style bills, half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different looking. It turned away and got out fast. There is nothing nice about jail even in 1894. In 1894 there was it was not a good experience to have to be there in the jail. Okay, now explanation. As the clerk calculated the fare, he looked at Charlie's fancy headband. Now Charlie just had enough for one-sided journey. Just as he took out money, the clerk informed that this is not the acceptable legal tender. Legal tender means this is not the currency proper. Okay, and by any chance, if he tried to be smart, he won't be able to get away with it. He glanced at his cash drawer and realized that currency used back then was different and almost double the size. He ran out because he didn't want to go to jail. Now 2-3 questions are there that I have shared here. What convinced Charlie that he had reached the third level at the Grand Central Station and not the second level? Number 2, how does Charlie, the narrator, describe the third level at Grand Central Station? And how did Charlie often get lost in the Grand Central Station? So these are the questions. The hint also is given how to answer this one. So I want that after reading this one, you will, listening this whole lesson, you will try to answer this question. Okay, yes, thank you very much. We will meet in the next class, part 3 of the same lesson. Thank you.